Holy catfish! It's the aquaponics lady. G'day. So today it's all about what is the nitrification cycle. I wanted to go through and explain that in a couple of different ways so you can kind of get your head around it. Aquaponics is all about the nitrification cycle, as is everything in nature. Everything in nature is an ecosystem, and the nitrification cycle is part of the ecosystem. It varies slightly depending on which part of the ecosystem we're talking about. So specifically in relation to aquaponics, I'm going to show you a presentation now just to go through and help you understand how it all actually works, and you can get that visual rather than having me just sitting there talking and explaining. Okay, so I want to be able to give you a visual of how it works, and that's what this video is all about. I'm going to talk about the nitrification cycle now within aquaponics, and I'm going to give you a couple of different versions of it because some people like to see it in a nice circle, which looks cool, and some people are very linear. So I'm just going to go through it all just to give a bit of clarity and understanding, because understanding is your tank cycled and is everything working is something that people seem to have a lot of trouble with. So we'll go through it and hopefully can get a better understanding. So this is the linear model. So we start off with the fish. So fish produce their solid waste, and that's something we actually need to remove from the system. It's a common misconception. People think that they need to keep that in their system in some way or put it into the grow beds. This is not your typical soil-based gardening. We do not want solid waste within the system. It will clog everything up, it will kill the bacteria, it will get smelly, it will turn everything yuck, and it eventually will kill your fish. So we actually want to remove the solid waste from the system. It's the gills and the urine that produce the ammonia, and that's what we want within our aquaponics system. Now, ammonia is incredibly toxic for fish. So we have the bacteria, Nitrification. It uses the ammonia and it produces nitrite as a result. So it actually consumes it. So people say convert, consume, it's kind of all the same thing. I mean, we are talking about changing of chemical signatures, so choose your own wording on that one. But it does turn ammonia into nitrite. Now, nitrite is also incredibly toxic for fish. We don't want that in our system either. And this is where we get a common thing of people popping salt in their aquaponic system just in case they get nitrite. That will affect your plants. And we don't want to have salt in our system anyway, and it doesn't do anything for disease prevention like people say. It really doesn't. In fact, just like with our antibiotics, viruses and colds and everything like that become immune, and the bacteria that we get all become immune to the different things that you do. So if you're doing something constantly, you're constantly on antibiotics, you'll get antibiotic mutated problems. So it's the same thing. If you've got salt in your system, it's not going to stop your fish from getting sick. You need to do something different, and we can go through that another day. So nitrite is the first, when we've got the first bacteria present, we've got nitrite. We need the second bacteria, the Nitrobacter. That's what converts the nitrite into nitrate, and that's what the plants will start absorbing. So that's what happens in nature. That's the same process as what will happen in nature. That's why I say this is an ecosystem. It's a man-made ecosystem, but it's still an ecosystem. And the veggies will absorb the nitrate, and they filter the water for the fish. So by absorbing all of that nitrate, there's no longer any ammonia. It's no longer nitrite because it's all been converted for bacteria 1 and bacteria 2. And then the veggies are absorbing all of that nitrate, filtering the water for the fish. So that's your linear model, and a lot of people find that a lot easier to understand. Oh, I forgot the picture. Okay, so let's have a look at it as a cycle. So again, you've got our lovely drawing of my fish, and we need to remove the solid waste, and it's the gills and the urine that produce the ammonia. And then bacteria 1, the Nitrification, converts or uses the ammonia and produces nitrite. And then we have the second bacteria, the Nitrobacter, that uses or converts, eats, absorbs, whichever word you want to use, the nitrite and produces nitrate. From there, it's the veggies that will absorb that nitrate and filter the water for the fish. And then we'll go back to the fish again. So that's a nice clean cycle and closed loop system in that regard. Now, what is cycling your system? It's a common thing that people will ask, and do I even need to do it? Well, in nature we have those bacteria, bacteria 1, bacteria 2, they're everywhere, and it's even inside, okay, inside, outside, they're absolutely everywhere. And if we don't get that bacteria within our ecosystem for aquaponics, we can't have fish, okay? But you need to cycle your system without fish. So we actually need to get those bacteria growing without fish. So there's many, many ways of doing that. But the key thing I want to say is do not put your fish in the system while you're cycling it, while you're growing that bacteria. To grow that bacteria can actually take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months, depending on your climate, depending on the temperatures, and depending if you just put in a crap load of ammonia, then the bacteria is going to have a hard time growing and getting started. Okay, so this is what the tubes look like when you've just popped the like you've added all of them, you've done the mix, you've done the tests. So on the left, you've got the pH, which we're not going to talk about right now. The second from the left is the ammonia, so that's just showing there's absolutely nothing there because they've just literally added the two, well, not thinking of the two, oh my gosh, the words. They've mixed up the mixture at bottle 1 and bottle 2. Then the third from the left is the nitrite, and again they've just added the 5 drops from the 1 bottle, so that's, and it's showing there's nothing present. And on the far right is your nitrate, and obviously there's nothing there, so they've added the 2 different bottles worth of stuff. So there's no bacteria there, and at this point we need to add some type of ammonia. Okay. Now this is starting to show at extreme levels, but you can see on the far left, again, don't worry about that, that's a pH. But the second from the left, that's the ammonia. At that level, that will kill your fish. That's why we don't want it in the system. Okay? We need to get this happening, and we need to get this cycle completed so that we've got the bacteria in the system. But if you do it at the moment, your fish will die, either from the ammonia at that level, and you can also see this is showing that there is nitrite present. So this is, you know, photos been taken, I don't know how long apart, but we can see because we've got the ammonia and we've also got the nitrite, that tells us that bacteria 1, the Nitrosomonas, is present. Okay, so then we go on and we have a look, and you can see what these other extremes are. So on the far left, you've got your ammonia, so that's showing up as 0, which is awesome. But we're seeing what's now happened to the nitrate in the middle. See how that's up past the 5 parts per million? Well, that can kill your fish. We don't want fish in there at this point, okay? And we can also see that we've got a huge amount of nitrate. So that looks like what? 60 parts per million, maybe 80. And that means that the nitrobacter is present now. So we've got both bacteria present, but it's still not working efficiently. So, but you'll notice that there is no ammonia or very little ammonia in the system. You do need to continue to add ammonia source at this point in time, but you don't need to add a lot. You just need to have enough for the bacteria to continue to cycle. Because if you imagine that your fish are, when it's normally running, your fish are constantly producing ammonia, so they're constantly converting that to nitrite, constantly converting that to nitrate. It's a constant thing. So if you just add 1 lot of ammonia and expect that to cycle, well, sure, it'll go through it and will eventually cycle, but then the Nitrosomona will die off because it doesn't have any ammonia to consume. Okay, now that nitrate is actually at a level that is also fairly toxic for fish. At this point, I would be adding my veggies. Now, I wouldn't add too many, but I would add some fast-growing veggies into the aquaponic system, and that will help keep the nitrate at a level that's stable. So when you've got 0 parts per million of ammonia, which is the second from the left, again, excuse the pH on the left, the second from the left, we've got 0 ammonia. Then on the third from the left, you've got 0 nitrite. So that's awesome. And then you can see we've got probably about 80 parts per million of nitrate. Okay, that is still fairly high for fish. We don't really want to get into, definitely don't want higher than that, but that'd probably be okay. But that means that your system is cycled. You've got both bacteria in the system, and it's gone through, and it's now working as it needs to be working. So at this point I would definitely make sure I've got my veggies in, and I'd give it a little, probably another couple of days before I'd be adding the fish. Now, a lot of people, basically, they build their aquaponics system and they want to just add fish. Well, you'll probably kill your fish. There's no bacteria to convert that ammonia into nitrite and nitrate, and you'll get those huge big spikes. And how they went really dark in colour, that's what's going to happen. That's a spike. And when you have spikes like that, that'll kill your fish. If it didn't kill your fish, then it's enough to cause extreme stress and sickness. And we really don't want our fish sick or dead, because that can make us sick. It won't kill us, but it will make us sick too. But the other thing people don't seem to realise is that the veggies also need that ammonia and nitrite to be converted into nitrate so that they can absorb it. So this is the three main reasons there. So here's the pretty version of the nitrogen cycle. I think ammonia was spelt wrong somewhere. I can't remember where. But that's the pretty version as opposed to my basic PowerPoint version. But it's showing you the exact same thing, just better pictures and better graphics. Now, finally, two quick things. Is your pH. You need to make sure that you keep on top of your pH testing as well. You also need to keep an eye on your ammonia, nitrite and nitrate testing, but that can be done every few weeks after it's running. But your pH needs to be done weekly, unless you've got a problem. If you've got a problem, then obviously you're testing it a lot more frequently. But that process of converting the ammonia to nitrite to nitrate reduces your pH, so it will drop naturally. So people who say, oh yeah, I've put my fish into the aquaponics system and I've never tested the pH, or I haven't tested my pH in 2 years, or I haven't had a problem. Well, the natural process is that pH will have dropped. Doesn't matter what anything is, it will have dropped. Okay, so that means that those fish have acclimatized to that really bad water quality, which is really bad because they'll be slowly being burnt and having other things going wrong. And they're not knowing, not caring, and they're not doing anything about it. So don't recommend that. I recommend you keep on top of it and you notice what's happening. When you're cycling your system is the perfect time to really get a feel for your pH. You can move it up, move it down, do everything then. It's the best time to balance your pH and understand. And lastly is the carbonate hardness. Carbonate hardness is what we add to your aquaponic system, and it can often be natural within the system depending on what type of gravel or rock you use. But what it does is it acts as a buffer for the pH. It stops the pH from dropping. But once that buffer has been used up and consumed, then the pH will start moving. So again, that's something that you need to keep an eye on and check fairly regularly, every month, unless it's not high enough. You can add different things to buffer that system. You can do natural, or you can add other things that people like to do. But these are just basic things to have an understanding of. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions or comments, make sure you do leave them below. And hit that subscribe button so you can find out when I've got more videos being posted. And don't forget to follow me on other social media, because I do different lives on different social media on different days. So, again, thank you for watching. I really value and appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoyed it.